Hello, I'm Julianne with Healthy Living with Julianne. Very excited to bring to you my new health series during this pandemic, Key Steps to Boost Your Immune System. I'm very excited to be bringing to you health experts and entrepreneurs that are really incorporating creative, innovative, and out-of-the-box techniques to improve your lifestyle. And hopefully this will give you some fuel, help you boost your immune system, and improve your lifestyle so that you're excited, you're confident, and you're not buried by the stresses of the pandemic. So today I'm excited to introduce my friend Debbie Ward, who is a professional organic gardener, speaker, instructor, coach, and writer. She's the founder of Prior Unity Garden, the business she created to help others achieve their organic garden goals and dreams. She's been gardening since she could crawl around her family's food and herb garden. And she loves to help gardeners and taught for the Mason Sustainability Institute, Master Gardeners of Fairfax County, and for many other events, organizations, and groups. I first met Debbie when we coordinated a green festival for 4 years called Grow Your Health Local Food, Gardening, and Wellness Festival. She has written numerous articles for publications such as Green America, Natural Awakenings, and other publications. And she really values biodiversity, community, healthy living soil, fresh organic food, and prior unity inherent in all beings. So thank you for joining us today, Debbie.
Nice to see you, Julianne. Happy to.
Good to see you. So one of the ways that, one of the concerns that people are having during this pandemic is about the food supply. And so what I asked Debbie to do today is talk to us about ways that we can actually take action, since many people are home with the kids trying to figure out ways to keep the kids busy, but also to have a backup plan to our food supply. So Debbie, can you talk a little bit about the health benefits of growing your own food, eating organic food, and how that can really boost your immune system?
Absolutely, I'd love to. It's one of the reasons why I do this is to help people be healthy and enjoy really good, amazing food. So many of us are foodies and we like our food. And if we're going to have food, you might as well have good, healthy, awesome food. So one of the things that I'm really passionate about is being an organic gardener and helping folks garden organically, because there's a lot of questions out there about the health effects of chemical pesticides and fertilizers that are used on so much of our mainstream produce and food in general. And that makes me a little bit concerned. It's not only potentially negative for our immune systems, but for all of our body systems. And there's just not enough evidence for me out there that non-organic produce is healthy. So I don't know if people know, for instance, that there's a chemical called Roundup, a product called Roundup, chemical called glyphosate. And there's been a lot of questions with scientific studies of whether it's safe or not safe for human consumption. But all non-organic wheat in the United States is sprayed heavily with this chemical right before it's harvested. And so there's now mounting evidence that maybe, for instance, some of the folks that think that they're gluten intolerant are actually glyphosate intolerant. And then we're talking about the whole gut biome and the digestion, which is one of the keys to having a healthy body, is your digestion working so that you're getting the nutrients in your body to keep your immune systems and the rest of yourself strong. So that's one example. Another thing is that so much of our produce is picked unripe and it's shipped. And it's in the ripening process where all of the nutritive value comes. So we can be getting and eating produce, but it's been sprayed and ripened in transit to the point where it doesn't really have that nutritive value that's keeping us strong and healthy and happy. It also isn't tasting so darn good. It's why people love to grow homegrown tomatoes, because they get to ripen on the vine and you get that flavor and that yumminess. And it's that yumminess is a sign that the nutritive quality, the nutrients that are in that food have manifested, have come to fruition. The plant's like, I can't get it any riper than this. Here's all the nutrients in my food. And so that translates to all the nutrients in our bodies. There's
couple of points, Debbie, if I could just interrupt for a moment here. These are really great points, and these are exactly why I wanted to serve Debbie up to you, because these are really, really crucial points. Regarding glyphosate, the United States is far more relaxed than the European Union in terms of allowing more and more farmers here in the United States to spray Monsanto's Roundup fertilizer. And multiple lawsuits have been initiated. In California, there's a husband-wife couple that each developed non-Hodgkin's lymphoma cancer independently. They'd been spraying Monsanto's Roundup on their property for 30 years.
Wow.
Each of them received an award of $1 billion. So the courts are starting to recognize the dangers of glyphosate. And having lived and worked overseas in Europe and Russia, I can tell you that the American diet is far less healthy because largely due to the glyphosate. So I'm so glad you mentioned that.
Well, and it's not just the glyphosate. There's all kinds of chemical pesticides and fertilizers, as you know, that have come into question. Mm-hmm. And so that the spraying and the deadening of the soil, along with the practices in a lot of agriculture, especially in this country, have gotten it to the point. I like to wrap this up. There's a ton of studies out there, but you know, that can get really boring for people to listen to. So I just like to take the outcome of this one study, had to do with oranges, that it would take us, we would have to eat 8 to 10 oranges to get the same amount of vitamin A that our grandparents would get out of 1 orange. Now, people think orange is vitamin C, but there's a lot of other nutrients in an orange, like there are in all of the other things that we grow. And that's sort of just an assimilation of, distillation, I guess is a better word, of the drastic difference between what you can get nutrient-wise, growing something yourself till it's ripe, versus having something shipped or having something with a bunch of chemicals.
Excellent, excellent. So how would you suggest people get started if they want to grow a garden?
Well, I'd love to answer that question. It is what I make my business, is helping people do that. And over the years, helping so many people, coaching so many people, we're teaching and having gardens so long. I'm also kind of a systems person, and no, not kind of, I am a systems person. So I've developed a 5-step process to break it down so that it doesn't seem so overwhelming and confusing for people, because I know it's so easy for us to just jump on our computers, get on Google, and grab a bunch of videos or things that sound good, and we try stuff. And I've seen so many times, it's actually kind of painful for me to see how people will just grab things here and there and try them without having a system in place, and they end up failing. And then they end up coming to me. So I'm like, wait a minute, here's just the system, folks, so that people can get started in a really simple and understandable way that's been proven by loads and loads of people now. So I'd love to share that if it sounds good to you.
Absolutely. Go for it.
All right. So 5-step process to starting your organic vegetable garden. Step 1, I call observation and assessment. And so what we're doing here is we're observing our spaces, no matter what our spaces are, whether they're little spaces on a balcony or whether it's a big, huge backyard or you've got a small or a large homestead, is observing that space and seeing what you've got there. What do you have with regards to the amount of sun and the amount of shade? People think about a vegetable garden has to be full sun, but it doesn't necessarily. There's a lot of things in the summertime, for example, that don't want to be in full sun. Cucumbers like a little break. They don't need it full sun all the time. Lettuces certainly don't want full sun all summer long. So looking at what the light is going to give you an idea of what you can grow in the spaces that you want to grow. Also looking at what your water sources are. For some folks that are in a townhouse or a condominium or an apartment, it may be you're going to go out there with your watering can, and that may be your one water source, which is totally cool. But on larger properties, you may have the opportunity of tapping in water from roofs or getting water from a hillside. There just may be other options. So just making some observations, and also making observations about the critters. Because, you know, we're not the only ones that like fresh produce. Other critters do too. So observing and seeing what's out there, whether there's something that could be potentially eating your food, like a deer, or whether it could be something potentially helping your produce, like a bee. Just making those observations is going to be the first part of step 1. Got a nose itch. So then the assessment part of step 1 is assessing how much, but where I like to start people is assessing how much time do they have. No matter, I've seen lately that there's sort of people in 2 camps. There's people who are so busy now they can't see straight. That would be me, because everyone wants a garden, which is great because I love helping grow gardeners. And then there's a whole bunch of people who have a whole lot more time on their hands. And that's how it is right now. And that's going to change at some point. There's going to be a shift again. So assessing people's times, not only now and what's currently happening, but also assessing their time down the road is going to help make the decisions about how big of a garden people want to put in, as well as looking at their light and looking at their water. So that's sort of a general overview of what you'd be doing in step 1.
Okay, so that's step 1. So now we're moving into step 2.
So then we get to step 2. Well, actually, there's something else that sometimes I'll put in step 1, and that is assessing what you want to eat. And that can sometimes, assessing what you want to eat is probably a good thing to put in step number 1. I'm distracted a little bit right now because all of a sudden I heard the washer go off, so sorry about that. Being realistic here. So step number 2 is choosing your size and type of a garden. So if you're got a small space, you may only have a deck, a patio, or a balcony, then you're going to be a container garden. That's awesome. Don't think that you can't have a lot of food just because of gardening in containers. If you have a larger space, then you might want to be putting in a garden in the ground, or you might be putting in some raised beds. But making that assessment, again, based on your time, based on the light that you have, and how much food you want to grow, is going to be what you're going to be doing in step number 2. So it's really making those decisions based on what you've observed and assessed in step number 1. And that brings us to step number 3, which is in a way my favorite step because it's building healthy living soil. And I say living soil. People may or may not know that there's more life in living soil than in a coral reef. When I heard that, it kind of blew me away. So I like to pass that on as sort of an exclamation mark on why I like the soil aspect so much. There's loads of little critters that are our workforce. They do stuff for us. There's billions and trillions of critters in the soil. And so building that healthy soil is going to be huge, as I say, because they're part of our workforce. Sometimes people say to me, oh, I can't grow anything. I have a brown thumb. And I realized, you know what? You guys have an advantage because if you can grow healthy living soil, it'll grow plants for you. So how do we do that? Real briefly, you want to make sure, I'm in Virginia. People will say to me, oh, we've got this clay. We got to get rid of the clay. No, you don't. You don't need to get rid of the clay. You want the clay. You want to amend the clay and you want to work the clay. So you want to include compost and rock dust. And rock dust will help mineralize, add minerals to your soil, which makes strong plants. And when we eat the food that has taken up those minerals, then we get the minerals naturally through our food. So some compost, some manures, coffee grounds, very high in nitrogen. So adding this into our soil is how we can more quickly be building soil in the ground or in a raised bed. In a container, you're going to be bringing in some soil. But this is the weird thing about container gardening, is that those critters show up. I've been container gardening for decades, literally decades. And I don't know how they show up, but they do. So healthy living soil, building your healthy living soil is step number 3. Woohoo, over halfway there.
Okay, so step 4.
So step 4. Step 4 is where you're choosing plants and seeds. So if you've made your list of what it is that you want to grow, and your list can be not only for the summer. A lot of people think about, oh, I'm going to grow tomatoes. But what they don't realize is you can grow even in containers all year round. So if people have, you know, a lot of folks I know, greens are the basis of their diet. And so those plants can be grown in the spring and the fall and the winter. So in step 4, we're choosing our plants and seeds. And there's pros and cons to both. People will often ask me, oh, is it bad? You know, they'll find out that I'm like a seed starting freak. And they'll be like, oh, is it bad if I go buy plants? No, it's not bad if you go buy plants. You're growing food. What I say is if you're buying plants, you want to either look for plants that are organic, that have a USDA organic tag or label on them, or you want to find a small local grower. There's a lot of communities and places, including around here, where there's local growers. And they may not be certified organic. They may not, it may be a side business for them, or they may not have the money or the interest in becoming certified organic, but you just talk to them. And you find out, you know, these guys are totally cool. They're not using chemicals. They're doing all of the things that they would do for organic certification, but they're just small and they're not going to bother doing that. So then you're supporting a small business too, which is awesome. So those are the 2 things if you're looking to buy plants. If you're looking to buy seeds, you just want to buy from a reputable seed company. And being kind of a seed person, I have 16 criteria. I vet seed companies, and I do it so people don't have to. I mean, I make those available, but you don't have to. So there are some really great seed companies out there who are committed to not using genetically modified seeds. Currently, for people to know, for home gardeners in the United States, there are no companies currently selling GMO varieties to home gardeners specifically. So there's some great companies out there, and looking to see, be in relationship with them, find out what they're about. Some great examples. One thing I'll say right now is the seed companies are swamped because there's so many people, more people wanting to grow than usual, that they're having to do rotations. And so they're having to stop doing orders for home gardeners for a week or two and just concentrate on commercial growers. And then they have to tell commercial growers to hang on for a couple of weeks and handle all the home growers. So to give some people some resources, Territorial Seed Company is one of my favorites. So is So True Seed, High Mowing Seed Company, Southern Exposure Seed Exchange. There's some really great companies that I know are kind of in this, as they all are, trying to navigate the current time, but still get you your seed. So if somebody is starting out, what I recommend is to start the greens and your roots from seed, and get your fruiting plants, if you can, such as your tomatoes and your squash, your melons and your peppers, from plants. If you've not gardened at all before, that's going to probably be a pretty good balance. So we're almost done. We've got to step forward. And so step 5 is laying out your garden and planting your garden. And this can be as simple, people are different. And I like to lay out my garden. Granted, I garden in 4 seasons, and I recommend that because if you're going to be investing in gardening, you're going to get more bang for your buck if you're using the garden all the time and you're getting food all the time. My winter salads, frankly, are probably the most satisfying because I'm gardening in the wintertime and eating from it, and other people aren't, and that's fun. But step 5, you're gonna do your layout, whatever that is. Even if it's containers, even if you have one container on your deck and all you're growing is one tomato, that's going to be an easy layout. But I would suggest to folks, if you have one container and you have a tomato plant, put a basil in there with it. And so that's going to grow exponentially with the amount of and size that your garden's going to be. And I do recommend, you don't have to be an artist or anything fancy, I do recommend that people lay their garden out and have some idea of where things are going to go and consider the spacing that each plant needs, so that when you get out there and you're actually putting your seedlings and your plants in, you're not like, oh my God, what am I doing? You just got a plan. You've worked it out, and you just go out there and you plant. It'll save you some hassles and some confusion when you're actually getting out there and putting those plants in the ground.
Excellent, Debbie. That was fabulous overview, and I think that's pretty systematic, because she talked to those of us who are beginners, who may not have done a garden before, and how we need to really think, what do we want to eat? What kind of vegetables? What kind of fruit? How big? How small? Once everybody gets back to work, who's going to maintain the garden? Mm-hmm. Water sources. She gave us some company names to go buy seeds or to buy plants. And so it's pretty exciting. I think the way that you operate, Debbie, is you do this in an online format. Is that correct?
I do online and person. I do a combination of different things. Mm-hmm. Right now, I'm doing a lot of garden coaching just on the phone. People will send me photographs of what's going on in their garden, and we'll just have a conversation. They've got garden questions they want answered. We'll have a conversation. We also do on-site consultations. We can still do those now. It's just looks a little bit different, because if we're coming to on-site, we're not like hanging out with you so much. We're kind of like waving at you as you're like at the doorway, and we'll come and do what we need to do and do a write-up and email that to you. And instead of being able to get back together and sit down with you, we're doing it over the phone. So, so we are still doing stuff, and we're happily busy helping people do putting in their gardens.
Excellent. I'm so excited. I've been working with Debbie for so many years, and you can see she has just such a range of skills in terms of communicating, making it easy, but also systematic, because gardening is a financial investment as well as a time investment. And so my impression of Debbie, having heard from her clients and working with her, is that she really helps you get the biggest bang for your buck in terms of starting a garden. And again, during this pandemic, it's a really a great way to have control of your food, but also to engage your family, your kids.
Absolutely.
Your kids, your neighbors, come on over. And if you don't have a garden in your backyard, I do know people in my town of Reston, Virginia, who rent plots. Did you want to talk about that a little bit, Debbie?
Well, right now, the community garden thing, it just depends on your location.
Okay.
The community gardens where I live in Virginia have been closed. That people are not allowed to go there. Other places in the area, people are. And really the process works. The 5-step process can work even if you're getting a community garden in place. And yeah, if you're just getting a community garden plot and you're out there for the first time, it's the same thing. You're going to observe it. You're going to assess it. You're going to decide what you're going to grow. You're going to just, you're going to decide how to build your soil. You're going to be choosing your plants and seeds, and you're going to be laying it out. I also did want to note too that I do have some online classes, which could be helpful for people as well. For those who just have a few minutes here or there on their computers. That's also another option that I've developed just to help people.
Excellent, excellent. So how can people reach you? And I understand that you're offering a free 20-minute health and discovery call. Is that correct?
Yes, I am, definitely. So the best way for people to get in touch is through my website, which is priorunitygarden.com. It's prior is in previous, unity is in everybody, and garden is in what I'm chatting about with y'all. So if at the top of that website, you'll see that I have a link for a free 20-minute garden coaching and discovery call. And I call it that because I want to answer that burning garden question. If someone's got whatever garden question it is, if somebody has a question, I want to be able to answer that for them. And then that often leads to, okay, so what are the next steps for them? So that's why I say it's coaching and discovery, because we discover the next steps to their gardening success on whatever that is. So at the top of my website, you can just click that link. It's going to give you a really short, basically, I just want to find out when you're available link, and we'll schedule to just chat for 20 minutes and take it from there.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Debbie. I know you're overwhelmed because people are really getting excited about gardening. So thank you for taking the time. You can follow my series. I'm going to continue to interview experts such as Debbie in all facets of healthy living. I'm active on Facebook, Healthy Living with Julianne. You can tap into my personal profile, or I'm on the website, Healthy Living with Julianne. So thank you very much, Debbie. I look forward to working with each of you in the future and giving you updates on how to maintain your health, strengthen your immune system, and not only survive, but overcome the stresses of this pandemic. So be well, be safe. Enjoy the
Thank you, Julianne. I appreciate having time to chat with you and getting to talk with all of your folks out there. It's the least I can do for all the help that you've given me. When I was injured, I can say to everybody, Julianne was an amazing help and my recovery. So be well, everybody.
Thank you, Debbie. Appreciate it.